So if you plugged in your vacuum and you realize it's not working, you may have an issue with your outlet. In this video, we're going to show you how to troubleshoot and change the outlet or fix the problem. And before you do anything, always make sure that you've isolated power to the receptacle. And it's easy, just find your circuit breaker panel. It's either on the outside of the house like this, or it's inside your garage or laundry room. Just flip off the breaker and that's it. And now that we've shut the circuit breaker off, we just want to double check to make sure that this circuit is isolated before we go taking it apart. So the first tool I have here, it's a FLIR circuit checker, and all that does is check for power. So if you bring it near any kind of hot circuit, it will vibrate and it will light up red and orange. The next tool we have is your common ground check circuit checker. So all you do with this is you plug it right into your outlet. If there is power, these lights will turn on. So again, we have no power. If you don't have those tools, a lot of people, and you can pick these up at Walmart or anything like that, your multimeter. Now you want to change it to volts AC because this is an AC circuit that we're checking, and plug it into each side there. And you can see we have millivolts, which is essentially 0. So we're good. The circuit is dead. Okay, now that we've determined that the circuit is dead, it's safe to disassemble the old outlet. So we'll just use our flathead here. Okay, and then you simply pop the cover off. And now we've got our exposed outlet. All right, and then we can pop out the old outlet. Okay, we got the screws out. And then we're just going to gently tug on it to pull the outlet out of the receptacle. Okay, now that we've got the outlet out of the receptacle, what I like to do just for reference is to take a picture of the wiring layout. That way, when you go to put it back in, you don't forget and possibly put the wrong wire on the wrong terminal. So just take a quick pick of both sides, and that way you've got it. You can look at it later. Okay, and then all you simply do is remove the old wiring off the outlet. So you got 2 blacks on this side. On the other side, you flip it over. You got 2 whites. And then on the bottom, don't forget the ground. All right, and then once you got the terminals loosened, you should be able to kind of yank these wires off. Now they may be kind of tight on there, so don't be afraid to give it a little bit of elbow grease to get those off. And that's it, and there's your ground. All right, so I picked up this Leviton. It's a replacement receptacle outlet. It's your standard 15 amp, 125 volt outlet. They're a couple bucks, $2 to $3 here in the US. And as you can see, it looks pretty much exactly like the old one. Okay, now don't forget to double check the picture you took just to make sure you're hooking it up right. So black on the right and white wires with the ground on the opposite side. And you just simply, your wires should already be bent. If not, you can reshape them to fit the new outlet. You want to make sure, once you get it in there, that the wires are not touching each other. So a simple flathead. Sometimes you got to take the wire back off, and it's a pretty important step. That way your wires aren't shortened together. Okay, so as you can see, I had to grab some pliers. Sometimes with these solid copper core wires, they're a little tricky to bend back with your screwdriver, so don't be afraid to grab some standard pliers here and just shape your wires back so they fit easily back on your receptacle. So let's give that another shot. And I like to get one side, if you can, both wires on. Screw them back down. Now you want to screw them tight, but not so tight where it breaks the plastic casing here on the outlet. This wire here is still wanting to come off a little bit. Sometimes you can just take your tip of your screwdriver, kind of get it that final shape that you want. When you're all done, you just want to make sure that the wires are snug in there. Give them a little pull test, and those are staying on there. So we'll move over to the white side. Now it doesn't matter which white wire goes on the top. Same with the black side. You can put them on either terminal as long as the white's on one side and the black's on the other side. And since these outlets are wired in series, that's why you have two wires on each side, because one's coming in and then the other one's going out. And that's going to go to your next outlet. And then obviously don't forget your ground. It's pretty important. Keep things safe, properly grounded. All right. And then it's a good idea to give them all a tug, just to make sure they're all snugly on there and not going to pop off. Okay, so now if you remember on the old outlet, there was no tape. It's always a good idea, and usually if you pull your old outlets out, you're not going to see tape on it, but it's always a good idea. Pick up some electrical tape. All we're going to do is wrap the electrical tape around the inside of the outlet, around the edge, and all you're doing there is protecting the terminals, because as you'll see, this metal enclosure here, sometimes it's plastic, sometimes it's metal, but you don't want those wires to come in contact. So just a couple loops around. And as you can see now, it's protected. All the terminals are not bare metal anymore, so no chance of it touching anything. Okay, now that we have the outlet tape there and it's safe, we can push it back. You're going to have to give it a little bit of force there, and then you're going to want to line up your mounting screw, and then you're going to want to screw a little bit on each side as you go. That way it lines up into the receptacle properly. You kind of just go back and forth. And again, you don't want it over tight, but you want it snug so your outlet's not moving around on your wall, because your cover plate's going to mount to your outlet. So if this is moving around, then the whole thing will move around. And just a little bit more. Still a little bit loose, so I'm going to give it a little bit more on the bottom here. Okay, now that the outlet is securely into the receptacle, then it's time to install your cover. So you simply just install your cover, opposite of taking it off. Now, if you've got an electric screwdriver, it'll actually speed up this process, but if you don't, that's okay too. Probably better to use the manual screwdrivers on the cover plate. Either way, because a little bit of too much force on these and it will crack these cover plates pretty easily. So you definitely don't want to over tighten those, and it'll crack these plates. Okay, now that we've successfully replaced the outlet, put the cover plate back on, it's time to turn power back on. Okay, I just went and flipped the circuit breaker back on, so let's check with the instruments that we have and make sure that we have power here before we plug anything in. And we do. You can see it flashing green and orange there. It's vibrating. And then also we have our circuit checker again. We should plug that in. And you can see that we have our ground and the 1 and 2 light. So we're all set. We have power. Okay, and the final test is to check out the appliance that wouldn't work before. And as you can hear, it is working. So successfully changed that outlet. And always remember electrical safety. Never ever work on anything like this if you're not comfortable with it, or if you're not absolutely sure that it's a dead circuit. And if you found this video helpful to you at all, please like and subscribe. That'll help the channel out tremendously. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more electrical troubleshooting and how-to with Electrical U.